All right, and what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, Patreon exclusive content. And I am your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it is good to have you guys here again if you are watching this Patreon video here. So, and again, just want to reiterate as I start this again to donate to the show, obviously, and get your contents or your comments recognized. You go to streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network /tip, and that really helps out the show. And this is how you get your bonus content right here. And you search us up on patreon.com GSMC Sports Network. So, with that, basically with this, again, it's kind of just a rundown of what the show was about. So we went through several things, talked about latest headlines. We, revisited the trade deadline and talked about that. We also went through all the games from last night, and then we finished off by talking about Matt Olson, who hit home run number 51 last night, not number 50, or not number 52, which for some reason I thought he hit 52 last night, which I really don't understand why. But anyways, so again, with the Patreon, it's kind of just like you're recapping, what the show is, and you're going into more detail. But again, the more we talk about, the bigger the audience we get, it's going to be more interactive. This is going to be more of me just reading people's comments and giving my thoughts on what people have to say and things like that. So I'm hoping, we get to that point, because that's, again, the biggest thing for me is I want to interact with you guys, the viewers. That's one of the big things that I'm really excited about, as we continue on this journey, being a host of this podcast. So, again, we talked about the headlines, surrounding Major League Baseball. Went through some stuff with the Mets and, their, decision making with what they're going to do and decide to do with the front office, and who's going to be the manager next year. And listen, the Mets, they have the money, and this is something that I talked about on the show. The Mets have the money to go out and get better players, and you want to have someone that is able to execute that plan, because Steve Cohen can't do everything. Steve Cohen has the resources. Now you got to put the right people in place to go and carry out your vision. And Met fans are not a big fan of Billy Epler. That's why David Stearns is coming in, and he's going to have a say on things. And people are talking about Craig Counsell coming over and being the manager. To me, it's just kind of crazy how fast a year can change, because Buck Showalter comes in, the Mets won 100 games, and everything was great. And then you get to the final week of the season, and they lose the division lead to the Braves, and then you go out the way you did against the Padres in the playoffs. Then in the offseason, Edwin Diaz gets hurt, and you go out and you sign all your guys back. You bring in Verlander, you sign Kodai Senga, you sign David Robertson, and then all of a sudden, Edwin Diaz gets hurt in the Baseball Classic, and that was kind of the beginning of what ended up being a very disappointing season for the Mets. And now this year, next year, we're just going to have to wait and see, what they do. There's going to be moves that are going to need to be made. And yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see with that. But that's kind of one of the big things, is the Mets going out and, kind of shifting things around. Also, another thing, well, I didn't really touch upon it, but Ohtani missed another game with his oblique injury. But at this point, I think he's still going to win MVP for the American League. He should. But at this point, I would. I mean, I think he probably. I'd be surprised if he plays again. I wouldn't want him to play again this season, just because I mean the Angels' season has just kind of spiraled out of control, and now they're on the outside looking in. So, um, I think that's probably the best course. Is just he doesn't play, and it really is disappointing. And I feel bad for Angel fans because they have to deal with this every single year with this team. There's always something. They haven't made the playoffs since 2014, and when they made it, they got swept. They got swept by the Royals, and that was the only time Mike Trout ever played in the playoffs. And since then, they haven't made it back. And there's been a lot of bad contracts. You could go back to Josh Hamilton, C.J. Wilson of the Rangers, Pujols. I mean, Josh Hamilton is one of the worst contracts for them, but Anthony Rendon is up there now because he just gets hurt all the time and he really has not produced, since he's come over from Washington. And now you're going to lose the best player in baseball because Shohei Ohtani he's gone. He's not coming back. And it really just is unfortunate that this is how this is going to end. And I'm hoping that Mike Trout finds himself a new home next year. I hope he's able to go to a different team and be successful there. I mean, people blame him because he still signed a contract with the Angels, but I think Mike Trout was still being optimistic, like, hey, go out and just get me a team build a team around me and put me in a spot to be successful. And they got Ohtani, but it just everything they've done. I mean, the trade deadline, getting Grichuk, C.J. Cron, Giolito, it ended up getting worse. And they were 5 games over, and it looked like, hey, they can make a run. Some of these teams started falling out of it around them, but it just did not go the Angels' way, and it really is unfortunate. Because it'd be nice to see Ohtani in the playoffs and Trout, but I think the only thing that we're really going to really gonna have to hold on to is really that last at bat of the World Baseball Classic between Japan and the United States. Is Ohtani closing the game out, striking out Mike Trout to end the game. That's the closest we're going to get to them, playing in a big game together is facing each other, in the World Baseball Classic. So, yeah, it's just, there's just a lot of teams you look at and you're just like, you just scratch your head. You're like, how is this team? I mean, the Angels is one thing, but like when you look at, the Padres and the White Sox also. The Padres, you can understand, why they might not finish in first place because of the Dodgers, but you'd expect them to be a playoff team, and they aren't coming close to that. And, and then with the White Sox, even last year too, they're in a division that's not that good. So you would expect them to go out and, finish in first place. But, it just didn't happen. Last couple of years, it's been a disaster. That's another team that there's going to be some changes there. Whether it is within the, front office. I think they did make changes. I think they did get rid of their general manager, the manager. I mean, they got some things they got to figure out. But, yeah. And when we go over it, believe me, there's going to be a list of, like the top whatever team, top 10, top 5 most disappointing teams of the season. I mean, it's going to be, that one I might actually like try and rank because one of the things is I'm not a big fan of doing rankings lists because everybody is different. And for me, I would admit I'm kind of a little insecure when I make rankings lists because if someone says that list is bad, I'm going to be like, I'm sorry that it's not good. But this one, I think, this one I could definitely make like a ranking of like the biggest disappointment based on expectations too. Because a team that you see in the background will definitely be on that list. Let me tell you, it'll be on. Both New York teams will definitely be on there. I mean, I could tell you who could be on it. It really is all about like how you rank it. You know, you got the two New York teams, you got the White Sox, you got the Angels, the Padres especially. I mean, I think the Padres they're going to be very high on the list, and Cardinals as well. Those are teams. Those teams have all been disappointments this year. Now, the thing with the Yankees, at least like they got a chance to finish somewhat over 500. A lot of these teams are finishing like 10 or more games under 500. Look at the White Sox, the Cardinals, the Padres. All these teams are finishing under 500. And I mean, the Yankees. I'm not saying the Yankees are going to finish over 500 by the season's end, but it's going to be close. They might go. There have been years past where I have like when they were really good, I would joke and say, "Oh, they're going to go 81-81," because of how bad they would perform on the road in Houston in the playoffs, and how they'd be very good at home. So I would always, so as a joke, I'd be like, "Yeah, they're going to go 81-81. They'll win every game at home and they'll lose every game on the road." But this year, there is a strong possibility that the New York Yankees could finish with an 81-81 record. So we'll have to wait and see. Right now, they're a game over, but that can definitely happen. But yeah, there's been a lot of disappointing teams, but there's also been a lot of teams that have surprised you. The Orioles, the Rangers. I mean, the Rangers, I think, were going to be decent this year. Especially with what they did with the rotation, even though DeGrom is out, but they were still able to do well. Having Eovaldi pitch the way he's pitched, Dunning as well in the lineup with Garcia and Simeon and Seager. Corey Seager's had a really good year. That team has been pretty good. The problem is, around the trade deadline and since then, they haven't been a good team. They've been very inconsistent. Right now, they hold a wild card spot, but they could be the team that's on the outside looking in. I think it's either going to ultimately be them or the Blue Jays. I think the Mariners should get in. The Astros, I think, are automatic, but you never know. I mean, they're struggling with the A's, as I talked about in the show. So, there's a lot going on right now. There's surprises. The Orioles, I mean, can't say enough about them. They could win 100 games this year. And good for them, really. And as much as, being a Yankee fan, that's a team that had a lot of rough years. And, the fact that they got a young team that's going to go out there and compete and possibly win a championship, and they're just getting started. And you got good relief pitching towards the back end. I talked about their closer, Bautista, yesterday, and how it's a possibility he's going to come back. There's news on that. So, the starting pitching is the thing that's concerning, but, this team is going to be good. If they can get the pitching right, this team is going to be very good for a long time. Up until they're going to have to, pay. Up until they're going to have to pay their guys, and then they're going to have to get rid. Might have to let some of these guys go, but that's not for a while. That isn't for a while. So, yeah, but So that's basically like all the news and stuff, and where teams kind of sit, currently. But then the other stuff that we talked about, obviously the trade deadline. Those, I didn't get to the Max Scherzer trade as well. That was another trade. But I think I did touch upon it in a previous show. But listen, Max Scherzer, regardless of what has happened over the past couple of seasons, he has been one of the best pitchers that I've ever seen in my lifetime. Going back to even his Tiger days. Playing the Yankees in the playoffs. I mean, that's a guy you did not want to face. And then obviously going to the Nationals and pitching how he did there and winning a World Series finally, because he deserves it. Him and Verlander both deserved winning World Series, as much as, I had to see Verlander win it with a team that I don't necessarily like he's a guy that needed a couple of World Series to his resume, and he got that because these two guys they pitched for Tiger teams that were very good, and and they would always get to the ALCS. They did get to the World Series, but yeah, I'm pretty sure they got swept. They got swept against the Giants in 2012, and yeah, it is what it is, with that. But they were able to get their ring, so at least when they retire, they have World Series championships to their resume. But I know Met fans are very bitter about Scherzer. I mean, I have some friends that are bitter towards him just because of how he kind of flamed out towards the end of the season and how he performed in the postseason against the Padres last year and how he kind of, and how things unfolded when he ultimately got traded. So I can understand that. But I don't think this is going to, heavily impact Max Scherzer's legacy. Now, one of the funny things, actually, so they gave Max Scherzer a tribute video when he came back to Citi Field as a member of the Rangers, but they didn't do it for... Now, I think part of it is because he was hurt, but they didn't do it for DeGrom, which I don't understand why. I mean, DeGrom was a homegrown Met, and, I mean, who knows? I don't know. I think part of it has to do with the fact that he was injured and didn't pitch against the Mets this year. But Max Scherzer was only with the Mets for a season and a half. Jacob DeGrom came up in 2014, and I remember because his first start was against the Yankees. And he turned out to be one of the best pitchers in baseball when he's healthy. And they really just didn't they didn't give him a tribute video. Now, again, there's reasons behind it. I don't know, but one of the other things too, and I got to bring in the Yankees into this. So, the Yankees had Old Timers Day over the weekend. And for the last 2 years now, it could be because we live in a different world than we did before the pandemic, but the Yankees Old Timers Day just became a Q&A, whereas in the past they used to play a game, and the Mets did it too last year, but I think they didn't do it this year for some reason because there was a lot going on and things like that. I don't know, so who knows? They might do it again down the line, but not in the short term. But the Yankees Old Timers Day used to be a game. You would honor you would announce all the players that are there, and then there would be a game. And for some reason, recently, last couple of years, and again, I don't know what the real reason is for that, but they haven't played a game the last couple of years, and I don't understand why. That's what made Old Timers Day, is watching these guys go out and play a game, 3-inning game. And, like guys that haven't been, like Derek Jeter was at his first Old Timers Day. And it was amazing seeing him in the jersey again, wearing the Yankee hat. I mean, it wasn't like the full uniform, but, it was close to that. And I wanted to see these guys go out and just play. For 3 innings. Because some of these guys I grew up watching. Obviously, the core four was around, before I was born. Hideki Matsui was there, and he's a guy that's always at Old Timers Day. And he actually hit an Old Timers Day home run. But that's what makes Old Timers Day, is watching these guys go out and play a game. And you see some of the guys you grew... I mean, eventually, I'm going to see more of the guys that I grew up watching, going to Old Timers Day. Right now, it's still guys that, my grandparents grew up watching, my parents grew up watching. But we'll get to that point where it's going to be guys that I grew up watching, where the majority of them are that. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Should the Yankees get back to playing a game for Old Timers Day rather than just having this Q&A? Because they were also honoring the 98 team, and I mean, it was the 25th anniversary of that, so it's significant. But I don't know. To me, you got to have a game in Old Timers Day, and if there's a real reason for that, that seems legit, then I'll play along with it. But right now, I'm just like, why are we not playing a game? But whatever. Um, but yeah, so that's just one thing I wanted to touch upon as well. But yeah, so the other stuff, I mean, the trade deadline, went through the scores. I mean, a lot of these, wild card and division races, I mean, they're going to come down to the last week of the season. I mean, they just are. And that's what makes it exciting. The only thing that stinks, though, is you don't have that game 163, you know? Um, so, yeah, it's that's the one thing. But you have all these playoff spots, and, there's going to be teams that you haven't seen in it in a little bit. So it's really exciting. And then you also got possibility of maybe another player hitting 60 home runs or close to that. Matt Olson. Hopefully he hits number 52 tonight, so I look less, I don't want to say, stupid or anything like that, but just, make me look a little bit better because I don't know why I thought he hit 52 last night, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's the MVP race right now. Right now you got Acuna and you got Betts, but Matt Olson is right there. He should be right there with them because he is having a tremendous season, and he's a guy that plays every day. I mean, like I said last year in the show, played every game last year. And you know what? You don't see that anymore. You do not see a lot of guys playing every single day. You don't see that. You really don't. And it kind of stinks because, and this is a problem in sports in general, is you have, especially in the NBA with load management. I mean, a lot of guys, but that's also on the players, I think, when it comes to the NBA. I mean, I feel like a lot of these guys, there are guys do want to play. Some guys, some older players, they might need more rest than others. But, when you got young guys on your team and you got guys that want to play every single day, they should go out and play. It shouldn't be because it's a problem with my team. Oh, well, this guy's got to rest on this day, and this guy's got to rest on this day, and it's just like, what are we doing? Ultimately, you got to go out and win games. What should be the way to go is you have them play, and obviously, if something's bothering them, whatever, they need a day here or there, you give it to them. But where most of the rest days are going to come into play is when ultimately you clinch a playoff spot, you are set on where you are in the playoffs. Like if there's no chance you're getting home field advantage, but you got your division and all that, or you got your playoff spot, then that's when you start resting guys. But there are times where you gotta, and if a player's coming off of a very good game from the night before, you gotta start him. I mean, I never really understand we gotta sit him down today. It doesn't matter how good he did yesterday. You want to keep that momentum going, and that's one of the things that really bothers me with the sport today. Is, and maybe it's just from my perspective as a Yankee fan, because I just feel like sometimes, especially with my team, there's a lack of urgency. It's, well, we gotta stick to our plan and not deviate from it. But if you need to win games, you gotta put out the team that gives you the best chance to win, to win games. You can't be resting guys, at critical points during the season or when a guy's hot. I never understood that, but that's one of the reasons why, baseball can be frustrating nowadays for people. And it turns some people away from it. Is just the constant over managing, and how people say, like, coddling the players. But that's just how it is today, and you kind of just gotta, you just gotta deal with it. But and I understand they want to make sure players stay healthy and things like that, and I can understand. I understand that completely, but you gotta have some urgency, and I feel like some of these teams, the way they manage, it's not, and again. The role of the manager has kind of like diminished over the years, as it seems. Like, what does a manager really do? That's what a lot of people say. But you know, it's what do they make a lineup? They manage a bullpen, and that's why some managers really get a lot of criticism is from that. But ultimately, it's up to the players to go out and execute. And the front office puts together the team. And that's why a lot of people have the problems with, Brian Cashman when it comes to the Yankees. And there's a lot, problems are all over the place, with other teams. That's just how it is, and you just got to deal with it. So, but yeah, we still got a couple weeks left till the playoffs. That's when things get really exciting is, going through each series and recapping the games and things like that. I think what I'd probably do is I'll, like for the division series, the wild cards, like I'll probably split the series up into individual segments. And then I think that's how I'll go about that. That's conversations I'll be having, with, my coworkers, and, just again, it's all about putting out content, and I starting this at the right time. Now we're already halfway through week 2 of this, and I've been enjoying it, and it's only going to get better from here. And again, the biggest thing is, like I said before, is interacting with the audience, because I will, you guys can roast me about my team, and I could give my opinions, and give you guys the spotlight with the the super chats and comments that you guys have. That's really what to me, that's the one thing that I'm most excited about, is the interaction. And I said that on the show, and I'm saying it now, is being able to talk about, being to have that interaction with you guys, the fans, and the listeners, and I'm really looking forward to it. But that pretty much does it with this Patreon exclusive content episode of the GSMC Baseball Podcast. So, as usual, we'll be back tomorrow, discussing, more things, headlines, and, and scores, and how the playoff race is shaping out, and things like that. So, again, I'm always going to reiterate this on the show and here. So, to tip or to donate, look down at the ticker on the bottom to support the show. Donations and tips, you go to streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip, and then you just search up GSMC Sports Network. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the show from today. And that is basically it. So with that, I will see you guys tomorrow. This is Kenneth Grunfelder signing off. The GSMC Baseball Podcast, exclusive content on Patreon. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. So take care, and I will see you guys tomorrow.